Hello, today we're going to continue our conversation about patterns. If you weren't in class today, we talked about how patterns can be seen in numbers as well. To help us with our lesson today, we're going to take a step back and talk about yesterday's lesson. Yesterday we talked about how patterns are numbers or objects that follow a rule, meaning they're repeating and they're consistent. So to help us to start thinking about patterns, let's look at our shapes up top. You see triangles, squares, and circles. Thinking about our definition, we know that patterns repeat because they're following a rule and they're consistent. So if we take a look, we see triangle, square, still no repeating, circle. Again, we're not repeating yet. Triangle. Oh, there's our first repeating shape. Square, that's the second time we've seen that shape. And a circle. Well, there's the second time we've seen that shape as well. So if we're going to continue it, starting from the beginning and continue on, we're going to say triangle, square, circle. Triangle, square, circle, triangle. You know, because patterns are things that follow a rule, they repeat and they're consistent. We already see the pattern that it's repeating, and it just kind of even rolls off the tip of your tongue that it's a triangle. Hopefully you got that same answer. Now to start thinking about numbers, but not to freak you out, think about the numbers 5, 10, 15, and 20. Well, already you should probably be thinking 25, 30, 35, 40. If you are already thinking of a pattern. And we use that pattern to help us to count quicker, counting by fives, because you're adding 5 each time. Alright, so that's easy with patterns. Now, let's take a look at the numbers I have below. The numbers say 10, 13, 11, 14, and 12. Alright, and you're probably thinking, what do those numbers even mean? What are we going to do with them? Well, just think about it. If we are having to figure out patterns, then what is a pattern? Well, we already said it's repeating and it's consistent. And so if that's what we're going to be doing with these numbers, we need to figure out what's repeating and what's consistent. And you can't just look at it, you can't just figure it out by looking at the numbers. You might have to do some math. So if I look at this, I know, okay, well, 10 to 13, I need to add 3. So I wrote down here at the bottom, it's kind of smudged, but it's supposed to be plus 3. Right here. Okay? Okay, well, so 10 plus 3 is 13. Okay, cool. But then I look, and I even drew arrows to help us. But then I have 13 and 11. Well, we know that's not adding because the number's getting smaller. But getting smaller by how many? 2. Alright, well, let's make a note of that. And that's what I did down here. I drew the arrow using to show that we have 13 and 11, that it's minus 2. Alright, well, I don't see a pattern yet because nothing's repeating. So let's go to the next one. Alright, we're going to do 11 and 14. Well, there's a good sign. We already know that it's adding because the next number is getting bigger. But how much is getting bigger by? Well, if you do your math correctly, it should be getting bigger by 3. Oh, okay, cool. And I marked it down here. Well, so far that's the first repeating, but is it consistent? Do we have a pattern yet? Well, if you see that 14 and 12, we know that that it's getting smaller. It got smaller by 2. I wrote that down here at the bottom. We now see a pattern because it's repeating plus 3 minus 2 plus 3 minus 2, and it's consistent. So if we're looking at 12 in the next blank, you know that it's going to be adding 3. And 12 plus 3 is 15. And that's our answer down here at the bottom. So you see, we use patterns to help us figure out math equations. Say we help them to count, but patterns are important, and we're going to continue learning about patterns as we continue on with this math lesson. Hopefully this little video was helpful for you. and I look forward to seeing you tomorrow. Have a good night.